You're listening to The Nourished Child, episode number 1.
Welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
Hey there, this is Jill, and welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast. Today I'm talking about what this podcast is really all about. Do you ever find yourself wondering if you're getting all the right foods on board for your child? Do you ever feel frustrated that your child has gone to school and comes back proudly telling you how many cupcakes he ate as a snack for that day? Do you worry that your child is worrying himself or herself about the way he or she looks, that he might be too fat or too thin? Do you agonize over what to fix for dinner, or the fact that your child comes to dinner and won't eat a thing that you've made? That's kind of what I'm trying to hit on with this podcast. The Nourished Child is all about childhood nutrition, feeding children, and dealing with the ups and downs of everyday life as it relates to food, feeding, and growing a healthy child. I hope that you will enjoy this podcast because I have so many aspirations for it and endless topics to present to you. I've already brainstormed almost an entire year's worth of content, and a lot of that content is inspired by what I see in the media, what I hear from my clients in my private practice, what feedback I get from my tribe on Facebook and my followers on my blog, Just the Right Bite. So believe it or not, there are so many things to talk about when it comes to childhood nutrition. And one of the things I want to do is introduce you today to a couple of ideas that I hope will come through in the podcast as you are listening to it and with me over time. So, of course, one of the main goals I have for the Nourished Child is to educate you about childhood nutrition, from food to nutrients to growth and development, all of those things that are included when we think about nutrition for kids. And I'll talk about babies and toddlers and school-age children and teenagers because childhood is an 18-year frontier, if you will, and there are a lot of changes that happen during those 18 years, physical changes, emotional changes, and they all do influence and are influenced by how well your child is eating and how he's setting the foundation for his healthy future. I also want to support you, though, on the journey of raising a nourished, healthy, and happy child, because I know it's not always easy, and I know it's not always fun. So my experience as a mother of 4, and my 4 kids are very normal eaters. They're not always healthy eaters, and they're not always unhealthy eaters. They're what I consider very normal kids growing up in the 21st century. But I want to support you because I understand some of those challenges that can crop up, and dealing with them in a positive way is very much key on keeping yourself and your child on a positive and healthy track. I also want to help you possibly broaden your mindset. In today's world, we often think about childhood nutrition, or even just nutrition in general, as being all about food. If I could just get my child to eat broccoli, all my troubles would be solved. Well, that sounds great and surely does sound simple, but we all know how difficult it can be to get a child to eat broccoli. And after we get that child to eat broccoli, that doesn't always necessarily mean he's going to turn around and next eat the cauliflower and have the strawberries and make the healthy choice all the time. So the reality of childhood nutrition is not just about getting healthy food into your child's body. It's much bigger than that. It's how you choose the foods you choose, how you strike a balance between healthy and unhealthy food. It is also, though, how you feed your child, the attitude and the interaction that you have around food and eating and feeding your child that really can sway your child's development of a healthy attitude about food and eating along the way. But not only that, things like exercise, sleep, how much TV or video games or screen time your child has, those things influence how well your child eats as well. And so there's this big, huge picture when we talk about childhood nutrition. It's not only just what they eat, it's also how you're feeding them and how they are growing and developing in our world today. And then last, my goal would obviously be to help you become the best feeder and food parent that you can be along the way. And in doing so, help you to develop more patience, persistence, commitment, flexibility with food, and have at least one goal of helping you to raise a child who loves food and appreciates food and is able to put food in its rightful place in the world. So nutrition may seem complicated, and if you listen to the buzz in the media, it can be so contradictory and confusing, and I understand and acknowledge that. But the truth is, nutrition is really quite simple, and it's really quite straightforward. And my goal will be to help you see nutrition as simple and straightforward. And not only that, to help you find your simple, to find your easy, to find your common sense approach that will work for you and your family. I won't tell you what to do, but I'll give you lots of options. I'll give you lots of approaches, lots of strategies, so that you can try different things and figure out what works best for your family. But I'll also talk about some really challenging topics in this podcast. Body weight, the pressure to be thin, how you handle a picky eater, when do you get more help, how do you manage all the outside food that your child is exposed to without becoming a food cop. There are lots of struggles and challenges that we hit along the road, along those 18 years in raising a healthy child that can be bothersome and sometimes can be major roadblocks. So we will talk about those things in this podcast as well. Remember, it takes 18 years to raise a healthy child. There's a lot of room for success. There's a lot of room for mistakes. But the good news is there is wiggle room and all the wiggle room you need to succeed. And I'm going to try and help you do that. So what you can expect from me in this podcast, I will be trying to do the podcast about every 2 weeks. You can expect that I will treat and talk with you like you were sitting right across from me in my office as my own client. I'll be straightforward when I can be. I'll explain the complicated nuances of nutrition whenever I can. And if I can't do it well, I will have somebody on the show who can do it better than I. I will show you examples of how getting off track with nutrition can turn out. And I will tell you what success looks like so you know how you're doing. I'll cheer you on, help you when you're frustrated, and I will always try to provide you with the childhood nutrition research and best practices whenever I can, because the research is very important in feeding children. The Nourished Child is not about diets or dieting, and you'll learn as you get to know me better in the podcast that I am anti-diet for children of any age. I don't subscribe to moralizing over food. I don't tout certain foods as better than others. I don't tend to point out brands. I tend to be very neutral about all kinds of food because, after all, food is food. You won't find magic potions or supplements or any kind of products that don't meet my personal expectations for what children should have. You'll learn that I'm a big believer in real food for kids. There's nothing as satisfying as real food and a great loving connection when you're feeding children. Some may think I'm a bit old-fashioned, but I truly believe that all kids need grounding and guidance when it comes to food and eating, and I will hopefully equip you with those skills as well. If you don't know me, I'm a registered dietitian and a childhood nutrition expert. I'm the author of Eat Like a Champion, Performance Nutrition for Your Young Athlete, and the co-author of Fearless Feeding, How to Raise Healthy Eaters from High Chair to High School. I've worked with children of all ages, from birth to early adulthood, and I've done that for almost 26 years. I've done it in hospital setting, I've done it in a private practice setting, I've spoken across the country and internationally, consulted on many different projects, and I'm a mom myself to 4 great kids. I do understand the realities of nourishing children, from the struggles to the successes. I see it in my practice, my blog, and in everything else I do. My intention is to help you create a health haven in your home, navigate the outside food environment, navigate the pressures and expectations of society, and grow healthy kids from the inside out. I will always look at the big picture and take the whole child into account. I am sincerely tickled that you are here, and I honestly am amazed that I'm here. And so please bear with me as I learn how to podcast, as I try to bring topics to you that are meaningful to you, that help you, and you can help me by letting me know what you'd like to hear about. I welcome your questions, I welcome your confusions, and I definitely want to hear about your successes. You can send any and all of those along to me at my email address, jill@jillcastle.com. Okay, so that's it. That's really what I wanted to talk with you about today on The Nourished Child. Moving forward, we will have all kinds of different topics coming your way. You can find show notes for this show and future shows over on my website, jillcastle.com/podcast. You can also sign up for my weekly newsletter over at jillcastle.com/newsletter. You can read my blog at jillcastle.com/blog. And when you're there, make sure you look around. I have a lot of free download materials for you to peruse and use. And last, get social with me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. That's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful one, and make sure you give your little child a big squeeze.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child inside and out.